Probably should have started with that question. Well, I'm going to take the gamble and keep talking and assume that you can hear me. Anyway, so as I said, the material from last week will hopefully be covered again, will definitely be covered again in a more meaningful way. I apologize if last week's felt pretty out of left field. I may have jumped too deep too soon. However, I'm glad that we had the opportunity to discuss associative arrays in PHP, because that is absolutely a vital concept that occurs over and over and over and over again in WordPress. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, sorry, I didn't realize you were recording.
No, that's all right.
Can I grab something real quick?
Yeah.
I'm trying to get right here real quick. Oh. There we go. Oh.
Diploma paper?
Yeah.
Cool.
Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. Okay. Associative arrays are extremely important in WordPress, and so it's a good thing that we were able to go over them last week. They will occur over and over and over again in WordPress and WordPress logic. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump in. The things that we're going to talk about today, why don't I just list them out real fast. We did parent and child pages. Okay, so we're going to continue with the theme of converting static HTML and CSS web pages by, and we're going to finish this thought process off by incorporating the meta tags, which you will normally find and use in a static HTML page, but we're going to see how to add them dynamically using built-in WordPress functions. Okay, we're also going to see dynamic body tags for different pages. We're going to create dynamic navigation menus, and that's a really big one and a really good skill to have if you are going to be developing a lot of WordPress pages. And then we're kind of going to jump into two bigger topics, which is one, the blog, for which WordPress is famous. And even if you don't intend to keep a blog, even if you think you would never touch a blog with a 10-foot pole, you're wrong. I'm just going to tell you right now. That thought is probably only occurring as a result of a dramatic misunderstanding of what a blog is. And I suffered from the same misunderstanding for a long time, thinking that blogs belong solely in the purview of people who posted pictures of their food. However, there's much more to it than that, so we'll talk about that once we get there. And after blogs, we're going to kind of seal the deal on all of this with introducing the, what's it called? Oh, the partial refresh, that's what it's called. The partial refresh, which is going to allow us to make our entire currently hard-coded homepage immediately editable by a client or whoever we're handing this page off to. So if they want to change this paragraph here, they can simply shift-click into the section or open their Customize menu, change the text, and it will be immediately reflected. That's the partial refresh. And actually, I might do that just before the blog. God damn it. I'm on a new keyboard, so sorry. All right, so that's kind of the list of what we're going to be covering today. So without further ado, let's jump into the meta tags. If anybody has any questions at any point, please do leave your comments in the live chat of the YouTube video. If you're watching this in the future, then too bad. I still only have one person watching this video. All right. the meta tag. So I'm going to come into my index.php file, which is my home page. Remember, we actually have all of the content of our header and our head in a separate header.php file, which we're calling with this getHeader function up here. So from index, I'm going to jump into my header.php file. And this is our header, our current navigation menu, which we will be changing in a bit. Let me just separate that out while we're here. That whole nav element. Okay, but up here in the head, we've got this PHP WP underscore head. And the WordPress head function, like this, does a lot of the work for us. As we've already seen, this is what actually includes all of our links and scripts. Okay, we write them in one place, in one function, in our functions.php file, all of our enqueued style sheets and our enqueued scripts, and they will be dynamically added to the head element of every page on our website or on our blog or whatever it is you're building. However, this does not account for the meta tags, right? Things like if you're dealing with media queries, which you probably are, things like the meta viewport tag, meta name equals viewport, content equals width equals device width, comma, initial scale equals 1. Okay, the meta viewport tag, as you should know, is what allows your media queries to function as you'd expect. So this is how you would normally write a meta viewport tag. This is the one tag that we are actually going to have to hard code. This is the one tag that we are actually going to have to hard code. We put this in our header.php file, and it will then be loaded in the head of every page in our website. If you have custom header files, like a special header for an interior file and an interior page, you're going to want to put this there as well. But this is the only meta tag that we're going to need to hard code. The other meta tags, which you've probably seen but may not have noticed, are like the language encoding or the character set. So for example, these are all things that we want to include in any professional website because they make our website accessible and in keeping with best practices. So to create a dynamic character set meta tag, I'm simply going to write meta char set, and in the value of that character set attribute, I'm going to jump into PHP, and I'm going to call the blog info function, and inside those parentheses following blog info, I'm going to write char set as an argument. Okay, and what this is going to do is dynamically pull the character set of our web page, and our character set we've already chosen when we set up our web page and determined what language we want it to be in, or what locality, what localization we want for it. Okay, so that's a dynamically generated character set meta tag. And then sometimes you may have noticed in your HTML tag things like HTML lang equals en or something like that. Well, we can do the same thing with lang equals PHP. We're not going to need blog info here. The function is going to be language underscore attributes. Just like that. Okay, so this is just a couple more useful dynamic WordPress functions that allow us to control all of these aspects of our web page. And these are necessary for you guys to start thinking about because they are part of best practices. They are part of keeping professional and being comprehensive in your work. Okay, so let's move on from that to the real meat of this. Something else that's fun to do is here on my opening body tag, I can write class equals, jump into PHP, body underscore class. Yet another function which will generate dynamic classes for the body element based on the page that I'm on. So let's take a look at this in action. Once again, this is my home page powered by my header.php, index.php, and footer.php. But I'm opening my inspector here, and if we take a look at my body, it currently has this class of customized support. Sorry, I'm trying to zoom in a little. There we go. Customized support. But now that I have added this body class function, I'm going to reload my page. Oop. My mistake. They're still there, but you don't actually need to wrap this function in a class attribute. So you can just add it right there next to the body tag name itself, just like that. Nevertheless, you can still see home, blog, logged in, admin bar, no customized support. Let me reload yet again, and we should see it correctly this time. There we go. So now body class equals home, blog, logged in, admin bar, customized support. All of these classes reflect states in addition to my actual location in the web page. Which is to say, I've got my WordPress admin bar active up here, so I can customize my site while I'm doing it. Therefore, my body has a class of admin bar and customized support. I'm also logged in as the WordPress administrator, so I get this logged in class on my body. Those aren't so useful. I mean, they're nice to have. More useful is this class of home. I have not given this body the class of home. Or let's jump into the About Us page and see what classes that body tag has. Looks like while we're here, I did the same thing with language attributes. We don't need to include that lang attribute. Just like that, the language attributes PHP function right next to your HTML tag. That will work perfectly. While we're at it, let me double check the character set. That one works. See UTF-8, it pulled that dynamically. Okay, so everything else looks good. Once more, let's take a look at our body. It has a class of page template default. So it's the default page template. Page ID 9. That's the unique ID number of my About Us page. ID number 9. Page parent, because the About Us page, if you recall from last week, has 2 child pages. Therefore, it's a parent. Logged in, admin bar, customized support. Okay, so all of these classes are added dynamically based on the page which I am currently in and the state of my, whether or not I'm logged in as a WordPress admin, whether or not I have my admin bar present, this, that, and the other thing. If you have a number of plugins involved, those can further customize the classes of your body. However, this page ID 9 is actually the most relevant to me. If I want to use the same page template for all of my pages, which is very, very common thing to do, but for some reason I want one thing on my About Us page specifically to be different than all the others, just on this page, then I can jump into my CSS. Let me scroll all the way down to the bottom. And now that I know the ID number of this page, I can make sure to write .page ID 9, and then, I don't know, maybe the nav bar on this page is going to be different, or the all paragraphs on this page are going to be a different font size, or this, that, and the other thing. All my anchors on this page are going to be red. Something like that. I can specify any styles that I want unique to the About Us page using this class. And this is only available to me as a result of including this body class WordPress function in my opening body tag. Okay, so that allows you additional customization. If you're not ready to start customizing individual pages, that's okay. That's normal. However, the way your pages are probably going to work is you're going to have a couple which are hard-coded in some way. Like your About Us page may not change very much all that often, or your contact page, your services page. These are pages that probably won't change too often, so you might want a lot of hard-coded content in there. Or your client might want a lot of hard-coded content in there. And that's kind of what we're dealing with now. We have a couple of dynamic pages like Client Work 1 and Client Work 2, but most companies, and this is kind of getting into the topic of blogs, most companies generate fresh, additional, current, interesting, and compelling content constantly. And they don't just generate this content, vomit it on social media, and walk away. That's not how that works. We kind of take for granted the whole process of consuming that content. Whenever you're on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or Twitter even, and you see a blog post or an article or some video posted by a company or posted by a company's marketing department, that content has to be stored and displayed somewhere. And it is normally stored and displayed in a blog post, in a blog section of the company's website. Some kind of content management solution, like WordPress. Okay, so if this were an actual agency that we're dealing with here, they would probably generate at least a blog post a week about their work or about new clients or about new industry trends. That's kind of a necessity for companies and businesses nowadays. They need to constantly push out content and stay relevant and engage with their community of followers or consumers. And blogs make this easy and possible. Every time Microsoft posts a new story, they post Microsoft Stories, they sure as hell do not hard code a brand new set of web pages every time they do that. They don't. They jump into the admin section of whatever content management system they're using, and they publish a new post or a new page and run it live on their site. WordPress makes that possible and easy. Okay, but we'll get into that a little bit more later. Sorry folks, 1 second. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about navigation bars. So again, assume this is for a client who does not code or client who does not want to code if they can help it. Often what you're going to have to do, especially in WordPress, is create these very customizable navigation menus. Because if this is my site, I paid a developer to build it, and I see I've got a home, services, about us, and contact page up here, and one day I decide to add a blog page, and I want to have a link to it up here. Well, currently the only way to add that link is to dive into the code, find my nav, add a new list item with a new anchor, with a new echo site URL, etc., etc., etc. And that is an unprofessional amount of labor to ask of a client who paid you to build a WordPress site. So to overcome that, WordPress supports these things called menus. And you can find them once you have them in this appearance section in your admin dashboard. But the first thing we got to do is actually register some menu locations, and we're going to do this in our code. Okay, so I'm going to jump into my functions.php. Where is it? Here we go, functions.php. And I can scroll all the way down to the bottom here. I'm going to create a new function. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to do this inside of the theme features function, which we've already written. We already have that, so we might as well use it. So inside the theme features function, I'm going to write another function, a WordPress function called register underscore nav underscore menu. Okay, that's my function, and this function takes 2 arguments. The first argument is going to be a custom code name for your menu location. So first I'm going to start with this top nav bar at the top. Okay, I'm going to create a nav menu for this location where it says home, services, about us, and contact. To do that, I'm going to write register nav menu, and I'm going to call this something like header nav, or no, let's do top navigation. Top hyphen navigation. This is a custom code name. Okay, and then the second argument that this function takes is a human-friendly name. So I'm going to write top navbar or something like that. And I can use a space, I can use capitalized letters. This is going to be the title of this location, which a human being is going to see from the admin dashboard. So this is the code name, the human-friendly name. Register nav menu. Okay, and let's do 3 menus in total. I'll do one for that top navigation, and then I'll do 2 for my footer. Here on the left, where there's all this contact info. Actually, no, I'll leave that hard-coded for now. We'll just do this other one on the right, which has Twitter, Instagram, Dribbble, Facebook, Behance. So a bunch of social media links on the right. I'm going to make a custom navigation menu for that as well. So I'm going to register nav menu again. And I'm going to call this one footer navigation. Footer social links is going to be the human-friendly name. Okay, now we've registered nav menus, and if I reload my dashboard, I should actually see a menus option now under appearance once it loads. Sorry, my computer seems to be running very slow right now. Alright, well in the meantime, while I'm waiting for that to load, we have now registered our nav menus in the theme features function. So now what we want to do is replace the 2 hard-coded menus with more dynamic code. So let's start with my header, where we have this whole nav item. I'll go to reloaded appearance, and now there's a menus option there. Okay, I can click into that, but it's not going to do us any good just yet. So let's continue on here. Now, what I need to do here is identify where I want the dynamically loaded nav content to live. And the way to do that is to ask yourself, where would you be adding an additional link? The way I would do that is copy a list item and paste it right below. So all of these list items can go. I'm just going to comment them out. Note that when you're commenting out HTML with PHP, it will sometimes do this, and it looks like it's not commented out. It is. It's still not going to work. We're still good. Okay, so I've commented out all of my list items in my nav bar, and now inside my unordered list, I'm going to write some code. The code is going to be jump into PHP. I'm going to run the WP nav menu function. And what this function takes as an argument is a single associative array. So array, open parentheses, bring it down to another line, and there are a number of different properties you can give to this array. Properties, for lack of a better word. There are a number of different items you can put in this array, but right now we're only going to need one, and this is the most essential. And that property is going to be called theme location, and the value of that theme location is going to be that custom code name of this spot. So the code name I gave to our top nav bar is top navigation. So theme location equals top navigation. Okay, and I'm going to copy this line of PHP. I'm going to jump into footer.php, find my social media list here, and comment out those list items, and paste, and simply change the code name from top navigation to footer navigation. Okay, now that we've done that, we should be good to dive into our dashboard. Let me reload everything first so we can see the changes. Okay. So now both of those menus are completely empty. They're completely empty, and so what WordPress does is actually default to inserting all of your custom pages into those empty menus. There's a way of fighting that, but we're not going to need to right now, so it doesn't bother me. But the hard-coded menu content is obviously not there. It is missing. Okay, so I'm going to jump into Appearance and Menus in my dashboard. And it's going to give me this menu, that's this window that says Edit Menus. So I can create my own menu collections and assign them to a location like top nav bar or footer navigation. So I'm going to create a new menu. I'm just going to call it top. I'm going to select Create Menu. And down here under Display Location, I see top nav bar and footer social link. So I can pick where I want this menu to display. I'm going to click top nav bar. And now I need to actually put some stuff in here. Well, the pages we have are About Us, Sample Page, and Client Work 2, Client Work 1. I'm just going to add About Us for now, because it's the only pre-existing page that we've coded. But I'm also going to find this custom links section down here, and I can put in a URL here, like the home page of this site. If it's going to be Bauhaus.com, I could put Bauhaus.com and call this one home. For now, I'm going to set this up. So it is simply new site.local, add to menu. And for a little variety, why don't we add this? Well, let's go to our posts. Let's add hello world. And this sample page. Okay, so we have 4 links again. And now I can reorder them however I want. I'll put home first, about us, hello world, sample page. And the point of this is as you build pages, like your services page, your contact page, your blog homepage, these will show up as existing pre-built pages with their own dynamically generated links and all of that, which you can then add to a custom menu. And your client will do the same. As your client wants to add a new section on the team, the corporate team, they would add that in pages, and that would then show up here in this section, and they could add it to their menu, and it would automatically show up. So I'm going to save this menu, and we're going to make one more for the footer. I'm going to click Create a New Menu. I'm going to call this one, I'll just call it Footer Social. Doesn't matter what it's called. Okay, and the display location for this one is going to be Footer Social Links. And I don't want to add any of the existing pages. This is all going to be outside links. So I'm going to create some custom ones, like this one should say Twitter, and it should go to, let's just have it go to twitter.com for now. So if this company had real social media pages, this is how you would add them. Okay, let's do one more. All right, now I can save my menu. Both menus should be saved. I'm going to reload my home page. And there we have our social links down here. Looks like for some reason we're seeing the same social links in our nav menu. So let's see what's going on there. So this footer social, let's take a look at top. Maybe I didn't save it. Save menu, reload. That's strange. We're still getting the other menu in this top location. So let's check our code once again. Theme location, top navigation. Theme location, footer navigation. To menus. Okay, let's take a close look then. Wow, sorry folks, this is pretty dumb. Okay, so it's not that, so it's got to be something with how I'm classifying it in my header.php. We have anything location, top, navigation. Alright, if I can't fix this in the next minute, I'll move on and come back to it. That's crazy to me. One more time. Okay. So it looks like my menus are competing with each other. So let me go ahead and investigate that and get back to it. But that's how we create a custom menu like this for our clients. Now obviously now my bootstrap styles are gone because my unordered list no longer has those bootstrap classes. The list items no longer have those bootstrap classes. There is a way to use the same system and maintain those bootstrap classes, and it's called Bootstrap Navbar Walker specifically. It's not a plugin, or well, it is kind of a plugin. It's a custom solution for enabling bootstrap styles on dynamic menus. However, it's usually far simpler to find the ULs that are generated by these menus have a unique ID. So you can always jump into your CSS and say, you know, list style type none. And you can select the LIs inside that UL and make them display inline block. You can change the anchors. It's much easier to write a few lines of CSS to customize how you want these to display than to use the Bootstrap Walker, unless you really know what you're doing. Later on, I may show you an example of a Bootstrap Walker, but I don't think it's going to add too much value to what you're capable of right now. Anyway, that's how we create dynamic menus. I'll work out why they're conflicting with each other and post about that when I can. But for the time being, I'm going to bring back our hard-coded ones just because, you know, this is our home page. I know how it's going to look. It's probably not going to change much. Okay, so I'm going to delete those PHP functions, and that means that I can also get rid of these register nav menu functions here in my functions.php. It's a really useful skill to be able to create custom navigation menus. I haven't done it in a while, but my expectation is if you're going to register multiple nav menus, you actually need to do it in one register nav menu function with another associative array that contains your multiple menus. That's what I'm guessing, but I'd like to investigate that for a couple minutes before telling you for sure that that's how you do it. Nevertheless, you know what to look for, you know what to ask. Even if I didn't find the solution, I'm confident that you should be able to as well now. Okay, so we're back to where we were. That's navigation menus. Note that if you are going to use hard-coded links at any point, do not forget that your hrefs need to be dynamic. Just like this anchor leading to the About Us page, I'm using a PHP function, echo site URL, and in parentheses, /About Us. This /About Us is the slug for the About Us page. If I go to the About Us page, you will see up at the top the URL changes to newsite.local /about-us. So that's where that slug comes from. And this site URL /About Us will return the custom dynamic URL for the About Us page. And echo will force that URL to display in the HTML and thereby dynamically populate the href of this anchor tag. So you would need to do that for all of your hard-coded links if you choose to hard-code them. Sometimes you may need to use a hard-coded menus. Sometimes you may need to allow your clients the abilities to build their own. Okay. Let's move on to talking about blogs for a bit. So once again, companies, big and small, produce content constantly. If I go to LinkedIn, actually my LinkedIn is probably going to be covered in nothing but illustration and animation related stuff, but let's see what we can find. Yeah, here we go. MBA at UNC. That's an ad, but it takes me to a request info landing page. No, it's not gonna. Okay, so here's a blog post posted by a founder at Bang Bang Pictures, and it contains an image, but this content is actually being hosted somewhere. And this content is hosted on a separate blog page belonging to whatever company produced this content. And when an internet, okay, whatever, it's clickbait. But someone made a blog post out of this video, created a post in a content management system, published it so that it was live, and then shared it on social media. That is a much more efficient, effective, and comprehensive way of producing and distributing content. Doesn't matter what the content is, unless you really want to add a whole new section to your page. Every single time you want to post something on social media, you use a blog mechanism like WordPress. Companies do this for new product announcements, new industry statistics, new team member spotlight stories, things like that. Any kind of content that engages their consumers. People who have their own Etsy store often do this as well to highlight their process or a new line of products they're going to start producing, or their experience at a convention where they tried selling their products in person. Okay, so companies use blogs all the time, constantly, every single day. More importantly, if you didn't blog all of the new content that you're creating, it would not be stored anywhere unless you continue to store it as huge swaths of code on your rented server space, which would dramatically slow down your site. What a feature like WordPress is able to do is anytime you create a new page, it's stored as raw data. Kind of picture an Excel spreadsheet. This page, in terms of data and space it's taking up on my server, is similar to an Excel spreadsheet. And when I click on the About Us link, WordPress powers up the page.php file, grabs the spreadsheet containing all this data, and builds it then and there. Rather than having to store this whole set of data and another call to this image and all of that jazz, rather than storing all of that in bulky code, it manages to build this on the fly and dramatically condense the amount of space required. So it doesn't slow down my company's website, no matter how much content I produce. You know, while we're on this, let me actually switch out of this custom site that we've been building and start a new one on Flywheel. Stop this site. I've been working on, well, I just barely threw together kind of a blog platform for Codify, which we're deliberating about starting to use to display and archive a lot of these Magic Hours videos, the portfolio review videos, a number of other content posts that we post, or like the daily tidbits that you'll see in the general chat often. I want to start collecting them somewhere. So this was just an early prototype of a very basic blog for this purpose. So ideally, in the end, you would reach this page by typing in something like codifyacademy.com/blog or learn or something like that, whatever we wanted to call it. So it would be attached to our main company website. You got this big old splash image. Scroll down, and we have some posts here. There's only 3. As I said, it's just start, well, except for the Hello World custom one. But we have a student success story and 2 portfolio reviews. Now, there's actually a lot going on here, but what I want to show you more importantly is these posts of content are all categorized. These 2 portfolio reviews are categorized under portfolios. Student success stories is categorized under success stories. So if I were thinking about how to do my portfolio and working on it, and I wanted to see, a quick portfolio review, my plan is to actually start recording short 10 to 15 minute critiques of portfolios, any student who sends them to me, and posting them here publicly available so that other students can get in on the conversation, leave their own feedback, or maybe learn something from my feedback of somebody else's portfolio. And they'll always be stored and archived here. So if I came to this site and I wasn't interested in success stories, I'm already a student, I wasn't interested in any of the other categories, I just wanted to see portfolios. Well, I could search for them, or I can click on this meta tag here, portfolios. And when I do that, going to show me specifically posts which are categorized in portfolios. So I would have all and nothing but our portfolio posts in one place, archived, stored, ready to watch, or ready to click into and otherwise consume. Okay, so that's the idea here. It's very much content management in that we're able to store, organize, format, and present all of our content however we'd like. And these are some of the things that you might want to start working with in your blogs. You want to start practicing with blogs because dynamic content is what WordPress is all about. But to get started with this, let me jump back to our existing site. Okay, let me open this up again. Make sure I have my dashboard open. Okay. So first thing we're going to do is let's go ahead into our pages section in our dashboard and create 2 new pages. So I'm going to click on Add New. Now I'm going to call this one Home, and it's not going to have any content. I'm just going to call it Home, Publish. And then I'm going to create another one, and I'm going to call this one Blog. No content, hit Publish. Okay. Now if I want to visit these pages, they're not linked anywhere, so I can't organically navigate to them, but I can still find them by using those slugs. They're called Home and Blog. So if I do newsite.local/home, it takes me to my home page. And as you can see, it has nothing. It says Home, it has our paper boat header background up here, and no content. Our footer is still loaded, our header is still loaded, but nothing in here. But what happens if I load blog? Same thing. Okay. Now what we're going to want to do is actually change the architecture of our files here. So we're going to actually have index power our blog page and have a new file called frontpage.php power our static home page. Okay, so I'm going to copy all the content of index, create a new file in my theme folder, save it as frontpage.php, paste all of that content, and before I save this, actually I should have done this first. Let me take a step backwards. I'm going to delete front page for now. Just going to take a quick step back and show you something. So right now the blog looks like this, but let me jump into my dashboard. And I'm going to go into Settings, Reading. And what we can do here is determine how the front page of our website displays. Once again, WordPress was meant as a blog platform. So by default, your home page wants to display a collection of your latest posts, just like the Codify example we just looked at. But instead, I'm going to select a static page here, because that's pretty much what we're doing. We're forcing it to use a static page. And I'm going to set home page to this new home page which we created, and my posts page to blog. I'm going to save, and let's see what these look like again. I'm going to reload new site.local/blog. A look at that. Now our blog page looks like our previous static home page. What about new site local/home? Well, now this just looks like an empty page. This is our new home page. Doesn't really work, right? So this is why we're going to, what's happening now is with the change in settings, home, which is a page powered by page.php, is now the home page of our site. Whereas blog, our posts page, is actually being powered by index.php. This is a more appropriate file structure for a more dynamic, content-centric website, and it's something you're going to run into a lot. The reality is index.php is actually meant as a fallback. WordPress almost never wants to use index.php by default. It's really just like a fallback or a security measure. However, it is necessary for your theme to work, so you do need to have one. So to kind of get our site up to speed now, inside of my theme, now I'm going to create that front page file. Front page.php. I'm going to paste all that content from index.php. I'm going to save, and why don't we change index.php a little bit? So I'll leave everything through, how about creatives at heart for now? I'm just going to cut out the rest of that content. See what that looks like. So now if I reload our home page, it now looks perfect. It looks exactly the way it should, the way we expect. But if I go to blog, it also looks like our home page, yet it is cut off after creatives at heart. Okay, so now index.php is powering our blog site as it was, and home, the actual home page of our site, is powered by this front page.php. Front page.php. WordPress will always use front page.php to power your home page if you have a static page selected in this reading settings menu. Static page is much more appropriate for most websites out there, unless what you're building is very strictly a blog or a news aggregator or something. A static page is normally the way you're going to want to go with a WordPress site. And frontpage.php is going to be the default PHP file that powers it. Now, with our blog page, our posts page titled blog, that's powered by index.php. So let's continue to change index a little bit. We don't need all this stuff, right? Let me go ahead and get rid of this intro image and all that. And let me bring in this custom header from page here. So we'll use this one, the same one with the background image of the paper boats. I'm just going to copy that into index up at the top. Oh, still on the home page. Let's go to blog. Okay, so now this is our blog homepage. I can probably get rid of this big image down here too. Let's do that. This whole row, in fact. Okay. All right, I'm good with that. Let's add, let's change the text here to reflect where we are. So that's all of this text here. Okay. So let's say up here in this H2, I'm going to change this to welcome to our blog. And then on this, in this paragraph, I'll say keep up with the latest news. And get rid of this learn more button. We don't need that here. I'll leave the hello. See what that looks like. Okay. Good. Now the styling for creatives at heart is getting a little out of hand, so let me just go ahead and get rid of this row as well. We're going to put additional content down here. Okay, there we go. Hello, welcome to our blog. Keep up with the latest news and this dumb little graphic here. Okay, so we're gonna actually make these more dynamic in a bit, but first we want to actually incorporate all of our posts here. So this is where we publish our content in new posts, and they will display like a blog. To do that, we're going to once again invoke the WordPress loop. So I'm going to jump into PHP, and this is going to call for a while loop. And the what we're going to write inside the while is have posts. Okay, so this makes sense, just like from that first video. While we have posts, while there are any posts, and then inside that while loop, we're going to call the underscore post. I don't know if my connection just let out or what. Let me know if you guys suddenly can't hear me or something. All right. Now let's take the opportunity, now that we've got a little more exposure to all this stuff. What is actually happening in this while loop? Well, while have posts pretty much speaks for itself. Okay, these are both WordPress functions. Have posts checks for whether or not we have posts, and it will return true for every post that we have. So it'll check, do we have post 1, true, post 2, true, post 3, true, post 4, nope, false, and the while loop will stop. Okay, just like a for loop. And each time there is a post, inside that loop, we run the post function. And the post function actually calls all of the data related to that post. It calls it, it returns it. It doesn't do anything with it. It doesn't display it in HTML. We're not as users, thanks Dave, we're not as users going to see, but it's there. It's called up and ready for us as developers to use. That's the point of the post. Okay, so now that we have all of this information called up, we can actually start to use it. So I'm going to make an let's do another H5 like this one. Let's just do H5. First I'm going to, after calling the post, I'm going to actually break out of PHP. And we'll break back into PHP just before that closing curly brace. This is something that you can do. And while I'm out of PHP, I'm going to write some HTML. Okay, HTML. So I'm gonna write title here, just as a note for myself. This is gonna be the title of our post. Sorry. Not picking that up. Okay, so that's title for our post, and we're going to need to wrap this in an anchor, of course. Let's wrap the whole H. We'll do it here. I'm just going to use a # stand-in for now. Okay. The reason why we're wrapping it as an anchor is that if you click on the title of the post, we want it to open the full post. Okay, and then below the heading 2, below the title of the post, let's go and include, let's write a paragraph, and this is going to contain all that metadata. Okay, so let's do something like, jump back into PHP, and before we do that, let's just write something dummy, like posted by Evan in uncategorized, whatever the category is, on, and let's say, March 1st, 2018. And then below that, we'll have a paragraph with an excerpt from the post. Okay, so this is what the information that we want to display for every post. So let's try and make this dynamic. First, let's see what it looks like. Oh. Oh. Sorry about that. There we go. All right, there are our 3 beautiful posts. They all say the same thing right now, okay, because we haven't formatted anything and we haven't made these dynamic, but we're getting there. Okay, so first let's start with the title. We want the title of the post to display here. To do that, PHP is again going to be our friend. And what we're going to run is a function called the title. You may remember these. We've used these before, but now we're using them specifically in reference to the post whose information has been pulled up and which we're accessing on the fly. And then instead of this hashtag in here, jump into PHP. This is going to be the _ permalink. Okay, so this is going to return and actually echo. Okay, once again, if you forget, most of the time in WordPress, as a rule of thumb, functions that start with the will automatically display that information. The post is an exception. The permalink will display it. The title will display it. On the other hand, if a function begins with get, you're going to pull up that data, but you're not going to automatically display it in HTML. So you'll normally see echo, get something, 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 or no echo and just the. So the permalink will display the URL specific to the post. This will display the title specific to the post. And then the excerpt is similarly easy. We're going to use PHP, and we're going to display the underscore excerpt. Okay, if you're curious how WordPress knows what the excerpt is or where to stop the excerpt, that's actually a fun topic. If we have time, maybe we can look into it, but if not, I'd suggest looking at it on your own. Okay, let's reload, see where we are while I plug in my computer. Okay, not bad. So we've got titles, we've got excerpts, some formatting is very badly needed, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. CSS is always easy and is always something to come back to. Okay. All right. So now the only thing that we want to really make dynamic right here is the content of this paragraph. And in fact, let's make this let's make this really small. There we go. Just looks a little bit better. So far, so good. So we want to make this content dynamic. Well, some of this is easy, some of this is not. Starting with the author. The author, let me show you what that's going to pump out. This is also going to be a PHP function. They're all going to be PHP functions, but this one is going to be the author posts link. Okay. Now, if you think that I could just write the author, you would be absolutely correct. That will display the author. But think about most blogs which you interact with. If you're looking at a list of posts and you really like one contributing author and you want to read all of their work, what do you normally do to do that? You don't search their name, you click on their name. And it will take you to an archive of all of their work. So to automatically create a link to that author's full archive, we can use the author posts link as a function like this. And let's see what that gives us. Okay, again, CSS is called for, but we can see that Evan is now a functioning link. My problem is Evan is lowercase, and I don't really want that. I want my name to be capitalized. So you might ask, where is this coming from? And that is coming from your settings, not settings, your users menu in your dashboard, your profile. As your blog either is live or grows more active, you will probably have multiple users contributing to this blog. So they will all have their own profile. In my case, username, which cannot be changed, but nickname down here can be changed. So let's do it. And display name publicly as, I'll change that to my nickname. I'll change my email while I'm at it. And update profile. Now when I reload my blog page, it says posted by irrelevant Evan. Okay, so now we need category and date. So let's start with the category. I'm going to replace uncategorized with another PHP function, which is going to be echo get the category list. And let's see where we are with that. Okay, now it is actually pumping out the category list. It's pumping out each category. There's only one, but each category as a list item, as you can see. So that is something that can be accounted for with CSS, or you can kind of account for it here. But first, to show you how, let me open up one of these posts and give it a new specific category. Edit post. So I'm going to add a new category, and I'm just going to call this dummy. It's my dummy category. Okay, so now there are two categories for this post. Update, reload my blog. Okay, so now another dummy post has two categories here, dummy and uncategorized. I can turn uncategorized off and it will just have one category, but for now it has two, and it's printing them as a list, which is not what I want, right? We want it printed nicely in here as part of the sentence. So to fix that, what you can do is inside get the category list, inside those parentheses, in quotes, you can tell it how to separate these categories. So if I, for instance, put a space in here and reload, now we see posted by Irrelevant Evan in dummy uncategorized. Well, I probably want a little more separation than that, so maybe a comma and then a space. Okay, that's all right, but it doesn't look like much. So maybe a space, a bar, and another space. Something like that. That's not bad. All right, that's fine for now. But putting an argument in here will prevent these categories from displaying as a bulleted list, which is what we want. Okay. So far so good. Now for the time. For the time, handling the time in WordPress is actually remarkably easy for what we want to do. But it's it took me forever to figure out how to do this or why. So I'm just going to show you right now what the function here should look like. It's going to be PHP the time, which is, you know, fantastic. Actually, let me save that, reload, and we'll see what that gives us. Okay, that gives us the literal timestamp, 10:30 p.m. That's great, but it's not that helpful, right? We probably want the day and month and year. So that's not helpful. And what you can do is input arguments in here, like capital F. This is my personal favorite. And we have the month. Note, it's the fact that it's capital F and the month is February is completely unconnected. If these were posted in March, it would say March. But for some reason, capital F stands for the full month. I do not know why. However, the reality is there are a number of arguments we can put in here, abbreviations which will reflect certain formats of time. Don't try to memorize them. I mean, I know a couple because I've used them a bunch, and I know what we need here. But don't memorize them. What you can always do is simply Google WP for WordPress, the time. Let's just try that. And here we get a link to the WordPress codex for the time. Scroll down to... No, let's try the next link. WordPress developer resources. All right, well, you can see some of the abbreviations here and what they return. It's kind of helpful, but I was hoping for the full list. I know it's out there somewhere. WP, the time, format. Let's try that. Yeah, here we go. Here's the full list. So I typed in WP space the underscore time space format. And we get all of these different arguments we can put into the time. Time zone abbreviation, AM, PM, numeric digits, an abbreviated month, the full month. Okay? But we want three things. We want the day, the month, and the year. So we're going to need three of these abbreviations. For the day, we can go for J. For the month, we can do M, capital M. And for the year, let's just get the last two digits of the year. So it's going to be Y. So J, capital M, Y. Or no, let's do the month as a number, actually. So J, N, and Y. Let's put those in the right order. So N for the month, J for the day, and Y for the year. Okay. This is going to print out all of these digits basically like a smushed together concatenated string. If we want to put a hyphen in between them, for example, you simply do that here between the argument abbreviations. Let's reload my page. There we go. And now it says 2-5-18. So month 2, day 5, year 2018. So the amount of stuff going on in this function is actually kind of astounding. And it's amazing that it is that easy to do, but it's really annoying that these abbreviations are so weird. Nevertheless, they're not hard to find now that you know where to look, now that you know exactly what's happening in this function. So hopefully you can use those on your own. All right, and just like that, we have a basic blog post format. Okay, any post that we ever make is going to be added here and formatted like this. And now is when we could come in and format these with CSS. We could make sure that they're 50% wide and display inline block if we want to see them side by side, stuff like that. Every post has the option to add a featured image. So if you want to display the featured image or the image thumbnail on these custom post pages, you certainly can. There is no shortage of ways in which you can customize your blog posts like this. Okay, so almost done here. The other advantage of this is that we can access any of the archives for any of these post types. So I can click on dummy or on irrelevant Evan, and I see all the posts which have the dummy category. There's only one, but if I click on uncategorized, we'll see 3. Okay, and this is really useful. You can, of course, create specific PHP files that separately power these archive pages. And that's actually what they're called. You can create an archive.php file, which will allow you to selectively format exactly how you want your archives to look. And if you want to display the category name up here and have the post displayed differently, if you want to get rid of the excerpt and just have the titles here, you can. If you want to change the colors, the layout, anything, you can in an archive.php file, or a specific like archive-dummy.php file. You can get as deeply nested as you'd like for author, for category, even for time. So that's a very, very powerful tool. I'm not going to show you just now, though. I'm not going to get into it. It can be really useful, but it normally happens with a lot of volume. and I don't want to overwhelm you just yet. More importantly, what we should talk about right now is something called pagination. And this is really, really easy to do. So let me go back to my blog page. Okay. What am I looking for? Okay, I'm going to go into settings and reading in my admin dashboard. And here there's an option that says blog pages show at most. And currently it's set to 10 posts. I'm going to set it to 2 posts. Save changes. Now I'm going to reload my blog. And we see another dummy post and we see test post, but hello world post is gone. Not only is it gone, but we can't access it. So this is one of those times you think about what you normally see in a scenario like this. If there is not enough space on the first page to display all the posts, what do you normally find? Well, normally there's what's called pagination or pagination, where you see 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can click on a number and it will take you to page 2 or page 3 or page 4. Well, WordPress will not just automatically know to do that for us. We need to actually enable it. So in order to do that, I'm going to go into, we're in index.php, and not index.php, I'm going to, yes, no, it is going to be in index.php. Down below our while loop, still inside PHP, I'm going to echo a function called paginate links. Let's reload. And there we go. Make it bigger. Down at the bottom we have 1, which is selected. We have 2, which we can click on, and a next button. Just like that, as easy as that, WordPress has created pagination links for us. Okay. And of course, if you wanted to style these, make them look like your own custom buttons, all you got to do is open your inspector, figure out what class or ID names they have. So they're anchors with the class of page numbers. And an anchor with the class of next and a class of page numbers. All you need to do is take that class, jump into your CSS, and style it however much you want. Okay? So there we go. That's pagination. Very useful thing to include. Okay, so let's see what's next. I did want to get into. All right, I'm going to wrap up soon, so why don't we just take a little time and I'll show you an archive page. An archive page for dummy. Click on dummy, and this is it. Okay, we still see hello, welcome to our blog, which means this archive page is still being powered by index.php. And again, index.php is almost never WordPress's first choice. So inside my folder, my theme folder, I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to save it as archive.php. And I'm going to copy over all the content of index.php, so it should currently look exactly the same, but I'm going to get rid of this hello, and I'm going to get rid of this keep up with the news. Well, no, let's keep that for now. I'll change it in a second. And inside this H2. I'm going to get rid of this content, jump into PHP, and we're going to use an if statement here. Actually, before we use the if statement, the way to display the category title is going to be a function called single_cat for category title. Okay, so I'm in my dummy archives page. I'm going to reload. And now it says dummy right there. Okay, so that's one very easy way to customize your archive page. Obviously, any other changes I make to this page will be reflected here. Like, let's make this this header image half as tall when we're in an archive page. Just one easy change. There we go. And why don't we wrap all of our posts, I should have done this on the other page too, in their own div. With a little bit of styling. Just to give us a little more space and breathing room. That looks a lot better. Okay, and I'll change the H2 to an H1. Get rid of all this spacing. Okay, there we go. Let's also get rid of that stupid graphic. All right, good enough. I say as I keep writing Bootstrap classes. All right, this is our dummy archive page. I'm done now. Dummy archive page. We've changed it. We could certainly theoretically customize it a whole lot more, give it a separate footer, get rid of the footer entirely. What's the next thing that we might want to do? Well, let's get rid of this keep up with the latest news and make this dynamic. I'm going to run a function called the_archive_description. Nice and easy. Reload. And it's empty. That's because this category doesn't actually have a description right now. If you wanted to give it one, you'll notice there's a categories section inside the posts section in your dashboard. So I'm going to click there, click on dummy, and here's the description. These are all of my dummy test posts. Enjoy. Update. And now when I reload my dummy archive page, I've got my custom tagline in there. Okay, sorry the font's so hard to read. I don't know why this font seemed like a good idea at the time. But obviously we're not worried too much about styling right now. Okay, so that's a custom archive page. Now, only issue, what happens if I click on the author? Well, we still get the custom archive page, but the author name is not populating. And the reason why is because single category title does not include author names. Okay, so this is rendering as blank. Archive description is still rendering, but I don't have one. So what we need to do inside this H1 is use an if statement. If is underscore category, yet another custom function, which will return true or false. So if it's a category, display the single category title. Or if is author, remember I said is author is an actual function, returns true or false in this case. If is author, then echo, I'm going to use a little bit of a string here, posts by space the underscore author. I'm sorry, I misspoke before. Earlier I introduced the author function. This is author, which is just true or false. Is it an author? The author is the actual author name. Okay, so let's check that now. Huh. I didn't see that coming. There we go. That fixes it. There we go. Posts by irrelevant Evan. Apologies for that. Notice here in concatenating a string with the results of a PHP function, I do have to close off the string. I don't use concatenation like you would in JavaScript. I actually write a semicolon after the string followed by the content that I want to follow it. Okay, that is important. Another PHP quirk that you might run into on your own, and I want you to be prepared for, is if statements or else statements or while statements, anything that occurs on all the same line, like this, does not require curly braces. Okay, so if you see something like this and you're wondering where the fuck are the curly braces for this if statement, it doesn't actually need them. PHP does not call for them. If you break the line, however, then you need those curly braces. Just something to know and be aware of. All right, so there we go. We've got a custom archive page that accounts for an author or a category. Think about how else we could do this, though. Let me get rid of all of this content. And currently, our archive page has like nothing. Well, we can display, you know, the title and the stupid header image, and then in here, we could actually have an if statement that says if it's a category, fetch archive-category. If it's an author, fetch archive-author. So you can actually call separate archive pages based on whether it's an author, whether it's a category. So think about a university page. Maybe you click on a professor's name and you get a special author archive page. It's got his picture or her picture. It's got classes that she's taught. It's got his major and thesis, bachelor's thesis. If you click on a subject like astronomy, then it will pull up all of the, you know, announcements and posts and class projects related to astronomy. Completely different content, completely different batch of content, completely different archive page. Okay, I'm going to call it there. You guys really have most of the tools to really deeply explore WordPress on your own now, and I hope that you would. If you're feeling intimidated, all I can say is get over it and do it. Give yourself a challenge. Try, you know, if you see a blog that you follow or like, then try to replicate it. Just do it on your own. Replicate it as your own project. Feel free to use an existing theme, simply copy it, rename it, jump into that theme's style.css page, and make sure that you change the theme name in here, and you're good to go. You can then use the existing skeleton of that theme and edit it the way you want. Hopefully by now you have been exposed to enough WordPress functions to have an idea of how it works, where to go when you're not sure what's happening, and you have like enough anchor points, enough touch points where you can now get yourself to a high confidence level with PHP, custom WordPress functions, and editing a WordPress theme. The best exercise is to actually use it. I will have one more WordPress session where I kind of tie this all together with something called custom queries. Oh, one more thing I want to show you before I wrap up. I apologize. And then we're done. One more thing I want to show you. I did promise we were going to talk about how to make this home page directly editable. Okay, so this is now our front page.php. So let me jump in there. This front page, we want all of this text content to be directly editable by a client. And the way that would work is you hit the customize button right here while you're on the page. And this menu opens on the left. And I want to be able to click on something here or click on my text and rewrite it and see it change before my eyes. Just like Squarespace, because I'm a client and I'm therefore very spoiled that way. So let's focus on making this text, this Passionate Folks line, editable. Okay, so here it is in my HTML. I'm just going to separate it out a little bit. This is the text we want to make editable. First thing that we need to do here is kind of assign this some sort of PHP variable identity. So to do that, I'm going to jump into functions.php. I'll come all the way down to the bottom. And we're going to create a new function called my customizer settings. A setting in this context is referring to anything in here. Okay, these bars here in the customize menu are called sections. So there's a menu section, a site identity section. This tagline is a setting. Site title is a setting. Site icon is a setting. Okay, sections, settings. So my customizer settings, we're actually going to create some new settings. And inside this function, it's going to be fed an argument. Remember, we declare variables or arguments with this $sign in PHP. And I'm going to call it WP_customize. Okay, so first we want to decide what we want to call this thing. Well, it's kind of like my header or my header tagline, so let's go with that. Where do I want it, though? Where do I want to look for it in a section? Do I want it to be in the site identity section, or do I want to make maybe my own section? I'm going to make my own section and my own setting. So first, WP_customize arrow add_section. I'm not going to explain the arrow. We don't have time. Take my word for it, and definitely look it up. Okay, it is PHP. It's pretty central to PHP, and you should find plenty of material explaining how that arrow works. WP customize arrow add section, and this is going to take two arguments. The first is going to be the code name of this new section. So I'm going to call it header_sections, my code name. And the second is going to be an associative array which has the human-friendly title of this section, which I'm just going to call header, or header section. How about that? No, let's call this yeah, forget it, leave it for now. I thought I might call it custom text and have all of my custom text in one section, but that would get a little unwieldy. So we got a header section. Okay, and now under this line, we've now added a section. Okay, we have actually added a header section, titled header section, with a code name header underscore section. And that will show up now in our customize menu bar if we reload. Now I want to add a setting. WP customize, arrow, add setting, and this will take only one argument. And this argument is going to be a code name for this new setting. I'm going to call it header tagline. Okay, so header section is the section, header tagline is the setting. That's it, one argument. Now we need to actually make this setting do something. WP underscore customize, and this code is never going to change. Okay, the only thing if you decide to make custom settings and sections, the only thing you would need to change are the names you assign to these sections and settings. And you can make as many as you want. Just keep track of them, because if you're making a million different sections and settings, it can be very easy to lose track. Okay, where was I? WP set customize, add control, and this is actually going to take something like a constructor function. New WP underscore customize underscore control, capital C is capital WP. And this is going to take a couple of arguments. First argument is our function argument, WP customize. Second argument is the setting to which we are applying this control. So this is going to be the code name for the setting where we're applying this control. That's going to be header tagline. Third argument, associative array. And this array, apologize if this is getting complex, but I promise this batch of code here is so incredibly useful, and I would strongly recommend you use it even if you don't understand PHP very much. Okay, so it's going to take a label, which we're going to set to. This is going to be what we see. If I go into site identity, tagline here is the label for this section. Setting. Site title is the label for this setting. So I'm going to say this is header tagline, human friendly. It's just what we're going to see. Then description, if you want it. Okay, so a description is going to be like site icon here has a description. Site icons are what you see in browser tabs, bookmark bars, and within the WordPress mobile apps. Upload one here. I'm just going to enter custom text here as a human-friendly description. Then we need to tell it in which section is this new control going to be, and that's going to be in our header section. This is where we want it. And finally, settings. What setting are we applying this control to? And that's going to be, yet again, header tagline. And good. All right. So we added our section, we added our setting, we added our actual control. Last thing that we want to do to make this a truly user-friendly experience is WP underscore customize arrow selective underscore refresh arrow add partial parentheses. And this is going to take two arguments. Add partial. First argument is going to be the setting we want it to apply to, and I'll tell you what this partial or selective refresh is in a second. We want it to be on our header tagline setting. Second argument is an array, and all we need here is a selector with a value of let's give it an ID of tagline. Okay, now before I forget, I'm going to assign this tagline ID. Notice it's a CSS selector here, hashtag tagline. So if you wanted to use a class selector, you could, but be careful. IDs are usually safest. I'm going to give that ID to this H1 where we want that custom text. Okay, done. That's done. We've created a custom everything. I'm going to condense this a little bit. Copy this code down, memorize it, do whatever you need to do. But this is extremely useful code for WordPress. And that's 90% of it there. The rest is all we need to do is connect this to this text here. We already did it with the ID, but there's one more thing we need to do. Inside this H1, I'm going to jump into PHP. And I'm going to declare a variable on the fly called header tagline. And the value of this variable is going to be get theme mod header tagline. So this is kind of, think of it as like get theme modification, header tagline. Header tagline again is the custom setting which we created, and it's now stored in this variable of header tagline. And then if not empty variable of header tagline. So if this variable is not empty, then echo header tagline. And that'll do it, but we can also do else. So if it is empty, echo our original sentence. So that means that until you type something custom into this new section, you're going to see this passionate folks line. All right, so let's make sure that this works. Reload. Oh, I didn't save my functions. Save, reload. Final line. After you create a new function in your functions.php, you always need to use add action, of course. So add action, customize register. That's when we want this to run. And then the name of our function, my customizer settings. Okay, so now no matter how many custom settings you wanted to make, you could put them all inside this function. So what I'd recommend is you come in here and you copy this, paste it 3 times, and just change the label, description, setting, section, all that jazz. Last time, reload. All right, and now in our customize menu, see there's this header section. I'm going to click on that. And there's this header tagline setting with the header tagline label. Enter custom text here, description, and inside this input, I'm going to write my new tagline. And bam, our text has updated in real time. It has immediately and partially refreshed. Okay, so that's what's happening here. We're actually applying a selective partial refresh to this element. So whenever this text changes, that one element will undergo a partial refresh and we'll see the new content live. So that's what clients really, really like and what makes you look and feel like a real professional. So by all means, do that. Do that a lot. And as you get more experience in developing and you start developing with a backend, like with a real development server or a separate backend developer, you can actually do all of this without WordPress. You can do like your own custom content management system, and that is an extremely valuable skill, especially as a freelancer. So yeah. All right, practice all of that. Next week, I'll talk about custom queries. We're going to get into, probably it's going to be the last one. I'm going to talk about some complex stuff, and we're going to try and bring it all together. And then after, I'll try to put together a more clear example for those parent and child page relationships. But then that's it. At that point, I'll reassess, get some feedback from all of you guys, hopefully, and see how we can improve the material and this little mini course for the second go-round. Okay, so if you have any thoughts, feel free to shoot them my way. I hope this was helpful, or at least interesting. Hey, Dave, I'm seeing how to add memory to WordPress. Fatal error with lack of memory. Why don't you direct message me on Slack and shoot me a screenshot of that error, because you don't need to add memory to WordPress. It's probably just an error in your PHP somewhere. But we'll go ahead and fix that individually. All right, thanks, folks. I'll keep you updated for the next one, and everybody have a good Thursday.